Boom, we're back! Happy New Year! Check it out, got me some merch. This is actually a very thoughtful Secret Santa gift from Claire at work. So a big thank you to her. Maybe when I hit 1 million subscribers I'll be able to bring out my own line of clothing, but that's a little way away. But until then we shall soldier on. New year, new challenge, and I think we're ready to tackle sourdough. So sourdough is kind of the holy grail of bread baking. If you've been making bread for any amount of time, you'll have heard of sourdough or given it a go yourself. And if you have given it a go, I'm pretty sure you'll have come up against the major pitfalls, which are dense, gummy crumb, flat, low oven spring loaves, and overtly sour flavour. So I've put together my 5 top tips, yes, 5 top tips, that I think will remedy those things and will also just get you on the path to better sourdough bread. So whether you've never given it a go before, whether you've given it a go and it's failed, or you've been baking sourdough bread but you're trying to improve it, hopefully there will be something in here for you. So tip number 1, do not get obsessed with high hydration dough. If you go on Instagram or online looking at bread pictures like I do, you will find the number 1 comment or question is, what hydration is your dough? And people get obsessed with this. And I guarantee if you get obsessed with it, you will be on the path to months, if not years, of pain. And when I say pain, I mean flat, dense loaves. So if you've done your research, you will have come across the name Chad Robertson and this book, Tartine. Excellent book, really in-depth guide and instructions on making sourdough, from mixing to shaping to baking, but it does call for a dough of 75% hydration. And in fact with the levain it's 77%, as do all these books. And I don't know if maybe it's the flour over here in the UK, I have read that online, that they don't absorb as much water as American flours. You'll just end up with a really sloppy dough that no matter how much you work it, how much you shape it, you won't get a good oven spring in the end. You'll just bake a flat loaf. So the way to remedy this is reduce the hydration from 75% down to at least 65%, if not 60. Again, it'll depend on the flour, but somewhere between 60 and 65, it's just going to guarantee you a much better result. You might compromise on the giant air pockets inside, but to be honest, in my family, no one likes those big air pockets, because when you put your butter and marmalade on in the morning, it all just falls straight through. Everyone prefers a sort of more even crumb, not dense, still light, but just more even. And that is what you'll get if you reduce the hydration a bit. But you'll just get a much better looking loaf, and that's going to really boost your confidence, and then you can try upping the hydration if that's the route you want to go. Tip number 2, keep your starter young and active. It's really important to keep it well maintained and fed. The problem with sourdough is you tend to end up only baking it maybe once a fortnight, once a month, and if you're not maintaining your starter between those bakes, you're going to find it goes very liquid and gets a very sour, pungent smell, flavour to it, and that's just going to translate to your final loaf. So you really need to be feeding it daily, maybe even twice the day before you're going to use it. And that's just going to keep it really active, so when you bake with it, you're going to get lots of volume, lots of oven spring, and it won't have that really sour flavour. Tip number 3 is bulk proof your dough in a sink with warm water, like create a sort of Bain Marie in your sink. You'll see again in lots of recipes they talk about final dough temperature, but you can hit that final dough temperature, but if your kitchen's cold like mine, it's around 15-16 degrees in the winter, within half an hour the bread dough's cold, activity reduces, and you are on the road to a nice dense loaf. So you need to keep that warm during bulk proof. Now if you sit it near in an airing cupboard might work, but if you sit it near a radiator that's only heating one side of the bread, and it can get too hot. An oven with the pilot light on does nothing in my oven, it doesn't get warm at all. If I heat the oven and then switch it off, I've got the same problem. I get the dough and it's about 35 degrees, but within half an hour it's cold. If I put it on a low oven, it's just going to get too hot. Even on the lowest setting, I think the oven goes to about 50 degrees, and that's just going to make your dough puff up really quickly and then die, I think, and collapse back. So the best way for me is fill a sink with warm water, about 35 degrees, and sit your bowl in there with the dough in it. When you come back to it to fold the dough every half hour, just check the temperature of the water. If it's dropped below 30 degrees, add a bit of boiling water from the kettle and just raise it back up to 35. That keeps a nice consistent temperature during the bulk proof, and it's all around the dough, so it's going to be nice and even. Tip number 4 is invest in some Bannetons. This is what I suggest, a wicker one with a linen lining. You can get the coiled reed ones, which look very nice, but to be honest I find them harder to use. You've got to put more flour in there to stop the dough from sticking. I recommend these, they're really good, it's not expensive, you don't need to put that much flour in there to stop the dough from sticking. Again, recipes do say you can sort of improvise your own with a bowl and a tea towel in it, but the problem with that is a bowl it's going to trap a lot of moisture in there, and the idea of these is once the dough's in there, this wicker or the reed, it wicks the water out of the dough, creating a bit of a crust, so when you tip it out, A, it doesn't stick, B, it just makes a bit of a skin on the loaf, which is going to make it easier to score and give you that better oven spring and final shape. So I really would recommend it in some Bannetons, and I would get round ones, and I'll explain that in tip number 5, which is bake your loaves in a Dutch oven, or like me, in a stock pot. So that's why I recommend the round Bannetons, because most stock pots and Dutch ovens are round. This creates sort of a microclimate in the oven for the bread to bake in and traps the steam. So preheat your oven with that in there. Once your dough is proved, into the stock pot or Dutch oven, slash the top, lid on, into the oven, bake it for half the time with the lid on, the remainder of the time with the lid on, and it just creates a little micro environment, traps the steam, keeps the outside of the loaf moist for longer, which is going to allow it to puff up, spring more. You're just going to end up with more volume in that loaf, and it also gives you a bit of a shiny crust. So those are my 5 tips. I'll give you a little recap. Tip number 1, don't get obsessed with high hydration. Reduce the hydration to 60 to 65%. Tip number 2, keep that starter young and active. I didn't mention, you'll see in a lot of recipes they call for 200, 300 grams of mature starter. But I think when they say mature, they mean starter that was created maybe 2 weeks ago, a month ago, that's had time to develop. Lots of yeast and stuff to really get going. But not mature in the sense that it's been fed and then left for a long time before you bake. I feed it the night before, leave it 10, 12 hours. You can probably go to 14 hours before you use it. After that you'll find the starter peaks and then you're coming down again, and that's where you get less activity and the more sour flavours. Tip number 3 is bulk proof in the sink. You want to have a nice warm consistent temperature that's going to help your dough develop. Tip number 4, invest in some Bannetons, lined wicker ones and round. And tip number 5 is bake in a Dutch oven or a stock pot. So there you go. I'm going to be doing a few more videos, how to create a sourdough starter from scratch, how to bake a sourdough loaf, make and bake, and thirdly how to use up some of your sourdough starter in other recipes, because like I say, you're going to be maintaining it daily, which is going to result in throwing a lot of it away if you're not baking daily. So it's quite nice to use some of that up in some other recipes. So that sort of covers it. Give me your comments and your feedback. Do you agree with those tips? Have you got other tips? Have helped you? Let everybody know, let me know. Give the video a like. If you don't want to miss my other videos, which are going to be about sourdough, hit the subscribe button. In the meantime, happy baking, and I'll see you soon. Cheers!